afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Date today is the 2nd of February, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of The Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Inkle, a.k.a. Motel Noah. We have a jam-packed show for you today, folks. So much so that there's a chance that if I really want to milk this thing, we could go for like 90 minutes today. And hey, by now, you know, you're listening to this and you can immediately look at the timeline and be like, no, dude, like you only went for like 56 minutes today. Well, hey, that means that I just got in and I got out. But we have 2 emails later in today's show that have nothing to do with sports. And I cannot believe how excited I am to read them. I just think they also might take up a lot of time. Before we get to any of that, and we will do sports up top, but before we get to any of that, I have to say something about Monday's episode. Because on Monday, I had made a comment sort of in passing, like halfway through the episode, where I was like, women don't listen to the Coping Hour. In the month of January, the analytics would suggest that my audience, specifically on YouTube, is 99.9% male. And I wasn't, it would be a very arbitrary thing to lie about. That's just what the analytics say. I just kind of threw it out there. And then the response to that was via YouTube comments and especially over the Coping Hour email, copingoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. The email will always be in the description of wherever it is that you listen to the show. Women coming out of the woodwork to be like, well, actually, imagine that. Imagine that, a bunch of women well actuallying me in the year of our Lord 2024. Oh, how the tables turn. It's funny how that works. No, obviously, I'm kidding. But it was very interesting to see how many of you wanted to let me know that women do actually listen to the show. And I'm saying this to say, shouldn't have given me that. Shouldn't have given me that ammo. Because now I know that if there's ever a time in the Coping Hour's history moving forward, is that an oxymoron? Does history imply that it's already happened, or can you use history in a future tense? I digress. If I ever need a boost in engagement, I'm kind of like, man, comments are low, emails are low. All I have to do is talk about how no women listen to the show, and then by the dozens, you guys will flock to my inbox. Do you know what I mean? So you've already given me that ammo. So thank you for that. I will put that in my back pocket, and thank you for listening to the show. One of the emails I really appreciated was like, I watch the show because you're not like a meathead. You don't subscribe to like bro culture that is like usually in sport. Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Try not to do that. So I don't really try not to do that. It's not like it's really in my blood. I don't know if you guys can tell. I'm just a very emotive person. And that is a thing in sports, but I also... you know what's weird? I was talking to Jacob about this the other day, a.k.a. Rusty Buckets. Our audiences are just 2 different beasts. Because, like, he'll say in a video, hey, you guys shouldn't be racist. I don't want racists to watch my videos. And people in his comments will be like, fuck you, soy boy. Enjoying those liberal tears, pussy. Sorry, Grandma. But that's what they say. That's what they say to him, right? And then I come on my show, and I'm like, was January 6th the funniest thing we've seen in the last decade, or like top 3 funniest? Like, where does it rank? And then we'll talk about like how to build a bomb. And you guys are like, it's like a round of applause in the comments. I don't get it at all. Sorry if that made a loud noise, me bumping the mic. And I'm only bringing this up because I can already tell, based on a video that I uploaded the other day, that there is starting to be some overlap between the audiences, and that he is starting to funnel some of his subs into this channel. And I'm bringing this up because I want to say there needs to be maybe some communication on my end about what this show is and what you can expect. This is not a numbers pod. Very famously, it's not. This is a That Boy Nice watcher pod. Okay, that's what we do around here. It is somewhere between actually watching the games and just looking at the box scores. Okay, I'm not here. In my comments the other day, the video, I did a breakout of the video where it was like, how do we fix this? The points explosion in the NBA. Like, it's just not as easy as like, just bring back hand checking. The joke we made was like, that just feels like what you're supposed to say but it never really feels like that. I don't know if there's really any empirical evidence to suggest in 2024 that hand checking would all of a sudden fucking fix everything. Like, probably not. I don't think that's going to, what would have happened if hand checking was a thing in Luka's 70 piece or in Embiid's 70 piece? What do they get? How much? They probably still get 60. You know what I mean? I just don't know how much it really fixes. So I bring that up to say, the comments are like, oh, you have guys getting into like their 1-step pull-up, their 2-step pull-up. You have guys doing all, and they're just like talking about basketball in a way that is way too nuanced. Way too nuanced, dude. The blend of my audience versus his audience was like shit like that. And like, oh, well, if you look at this guy's VORP and shut the fuck up. Oh my God, I'm going to throw up. Shut up. And then my normal subscribers are like, we should bring back cocaine. We should eliminate freedom of movement. Yes, guys, this is the extra medium zag that we're looking for here. So everything that I'm leading with so far had nothing to do with what I want to talk about today, but I did feel like those two things, women listening to the show and Jacob's subscribers listening to the show, I just needed to get those PSAs out there. Although I guess the PSA for women listening to the show was keep doing it, but just know that if I ever need to farm you for engagement, I will do that at a moment's notice. Final thing before, just because I keep looking at it on the monitor here, before we really start talking about important stuff. I woke up today, scratched my face, didn't realize I had this little zit right here, wouldn't stop bleeding. Sorry, it's gross. Hideous. It's disturbing me. I almost listed myself as day-to-day for this episode because I can't believe I have to sit on camera for an hour, look at myself looking like this. I'm disgusted. Anyways, today's show. I really like the things I saw this week segment that we've been doing on Friday for I think the last 2 weeks now. Maybe it was only last week that we did it. But things I saw this week where I just rattle off a bunch of things that I wanted to talk about between Monday and Friday's show that I just obviously didn't get a chance to. So what do I want to lead with today? This 65 game rule is causing a lot of disturbance in the NBA. For those of you who don't know, in order to qualify for the postseason awards, or the regular season awards, rather, in the NBA, you need to play at least 65 games. You want to win MVP? That's cool. Got to play 65 games. You want a $40 million bonus by making an All-NBA team? Tyrese Halliburton? That's what it is, right? You got to play at least 65 games. So between Tyrese Halliburton and Joel Embiid, those guys are probably going to miss out on what they deserve the most, right? Especially Embiid at this point. From what we understand, he's been trying to play through injuries all season to avoid scrutiny. Is that a positive spin that the Sixers PR staff is trying to put on it? Yes, but also we know the history of Embiid's injuries, and it's completely reasonable to think that that's actually true. You also watched him. Here's my only thing. I believe Joel Embiid was hurt in the game that he played against the Warriors, but people. The Sixers medical staff could not have predicted that Jonathan Kuminga would have fallen on Joel Embiid's knee. Yes, he might have been a little banged up, but that was like a completely different thing. That's not why he got hurt, was because he was already hurt. He got hurt because a fucking grown man fell on his knee. A guy's knees who are famously not the strongest. It's also true that the Sixers medical staff has been the last 8 years that Embiid has been in Philadelphia has always been kind of shaky. It's always been kind of weird. I'm not blaming this on them whatsoever, literally at all. But the argument now is, how fair is this rule? Pretty fair. I know a week ago I took the diplomatic route on the whole, or it was Monday's episode. I was a diplomat on the whole. Is this points explosion good for the NBA? It is and it isn't. It is and it isn't, and it will be until it's not. You know what I mean? And at the risk of kind of doing the same thing here, I think I'm going to lean more in the camp of, no, this is only a good rule, but I do think that there are some flaws to it, and I think the NBA is going to want to tweak it, because who could have guessed that in year number 1 of this rule's existence, we would fall into an instance where the guy who is probably the consensus MVP won't be able to win it because he's not going to meet the threshold. And at this point, who knows with this new injury, who knows how many games he's going to end up missing. Maybe if it's right under the wire, you have to play 65, but he only plays 60. Do they still give him MVP? Probably not. Probably not. Because when Embiid won MVP last year, he had played the second fewest games of any MVP ever. And I think it was 63. I guess I could look that up right now. But I believe it was 63. 71% of the All-NBA or All-Star players from last year are on pace to play at least 65 games this year. It's working, right? People also hated the in-season tournament just in principle as an idea that people hated. What ended up happening by the end of it? Did people sneaky love that? I wouldn't even call it sneaky. I think they just loved it. 5 years down the line, people are going to go nuts for it, right? You want to know else? You want to know the other reason why I think it's working? You know who's playing more games, knock on wood, than they seemingly have ever, at least just what it feels like? Kawhi. And what's the result of that? The Clippers are must-see television. The Clippers are must-see basketball. The month of January were the hottest team in the NBA. Some would argue the best team in the NBA because Kawhi Leonard is playing basketball games. Whoa. But it's a copycat league, right? Guys don't want to play in games. I'm not going to say because LeBron doesn't like to play in games, but I always love to talk about how 2017, 2018 LeBron was the best basketball player that I've ever seen in my life, and it's going to be really, really hard to top it. You know how many games he played that year? All 82. All of them. Played every single one. What did that result in? He got swept in the finals. Now, you're going to argue, well, what? If he only played 67 games in that season, the Warriors wouldn't have won? Nope, the Warriors were going to win that series 10 times out of 10. The Cavs' best chance at winning a championship that season was Golden State losing to Houston in the Western Conference Finals. And Cleveland going on to play Houston in the NBA Finals. That would have been Cleveland's only chance at actually winning a chip that year, because otherwise nobody was going to beat Golden State, obviously, except for Houston, because they should have, right? But if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk right now. So I think it's a good rule. You have to have some sort of a limitation on this. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up tweaking it. Are you really going to move it down to 60? You're going to let these guys miss a quarter of the season and still qualify for MVP? That's nuts. That's nuts. That's insane. I think, one of the takes that I just don't really like is when people compare it to their 9 to 5. It's well, if I miss, a quarter of the days out of a year and 365 days of working, if I miss a quarter of the days that I'm supposed to be on the schedule, I'm probably going to get fired. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, in principle, you're right. But it's just not the same thing. Because you sit at a desk all day. Maybe you have a standing desk, right? Maybe you work in a cool office. You guys have beanbag chairs and shit. But you're at a desk all day. You're working, you're cooking on a line all day. You're working in a factory all day, right? All hard jobs in their own right. But you're not risking blowing out your meniscus every day. And I'm not interested in the fuckers who are I work on my hands and knees and I break my fucking fingers every single day. I'm not interested in that. Shut the hell up. You know what I'm talking about. The average person does not work a job that is as physically demanding as it is to be a professional athlete, okay? So that argument just isn't really I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze there. I don't really think you're saying what you want to say. But in year number 1, the NBA is already faced with this issue where they have to reconcile with the rule that they just implemented. Are they going to break their own rule? No. And they can't. And this notion that whoever now wins the MVP is going to be a Mickey Mouse MVP. And it's well, they didn't actually deserve it. They just had to win it because Joel Embiid couldn't play games. Because Joel Embiid couldn't play games? The fuck? Do you hear what you're saying? It's only in the NBA, truly, is there this culture of trying to diminish the value of somebody's achievement as hard as people try to do it. People still don't acknowledge the fact that Kevin Durant is an NBA champion. People still don't acknowledge the fact that the Lakers won a championship 4 fucking years ago. And if you're going to sit here, and people all the way, also, there is a camp of people out there who between Russell Westbrook's MVP and James Harden's MVP, it's like illegitimate because they were like makeup MVPs. And it's like, well, if they were makeup MVP, well, not Russ's because his was just because he averaged a triple-double and we hadn't seen that since the 60s and like it was cool. But even in that right, people would be like, LeBron should have won that year. Maybe they're onto something. And not really. I don't want to rewrite history. And I'm also getting off track and I'm kind of forgetting what I was talking about. But to illegitimize whoever ends up winning the MVP because Joel Embiid couldn't win a game, I don't like to be mean on this podcast. I don't like to alienate anybody by calling them a fucking loser and saying that their takes are hideous. But you're a fucking loser, and that's a hideous take. Because what if he only ends up playing 60 games? I'm going to throw up if you think that he should win MVP. I don't care if he's averaging like more points per minute than Wilt did the season that he averaged 50. Fucking cool. Cool. But Tyrese Halliburton being like, this rule is stupid. Yeah, I'd be feeling a little bit burnt if I lost out on the opportunity to win, to get a $40 million bonus too. I'd be a little bit bitter about that as well. I'm only going to try to deliver one loser take during this, okay? I'm allowing myself one loser take. The fans matter a little bit, no? A little bit. I'm not asking you to push yourself to the point where you blow your knee out or you rupture your Achilles. Like, dude, if you're hurt, sit out. It's fine. But this notion that missing 17 games is like not fair at all. It's not reasonable at all. You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. Because those 17 games, like every single night, I don't know how more players don't realize this. They just don't fucking care about this at all. There is some parent, could be a single parent, could be a pair of parents, who like saved for months, a month, trying to make sure that they could take their family to a game to see you. And it's going to hurt like a motherfucker when you're sitting out. We see it all the time. People being like, oh, I got these tickets for Christmas to see Steph Curry and like he's not even playing or something like that, right? It sucks. If you've ever been to a game where even one star player is sitting out, the feeling that it gives you is like, I'm still going to go, but I'll never forget Luka's rookie year. I had seen the Dallas was on the second night of a back-to-back. It might have been at the Palace. I don't think it could have been. It was 2007. No, it couldn't have been. It would have been at LCA. Yeah, it would have been at LCA. Dallas was on a back-to-back, and the night before, I think it was like against Indiana. He like tweaked something, and the whole day I was telling my brother, like, dude, he might sit out. Like, what if he sits out? What if he sits out? It's the second night of a back-to-back. He just got a little bit banged up, and it was like 2 hours before game time. They downgraded him to out. And it was this moment of like, damn. And that's what I'm saying is like, that's not his fault. That's not his fault. You're hurt. You're hurt. There's this argument that like Joel Embiid is bitch made because he didn't want to play in Denver. Didn't he play Denver at home like 2 weeks prior and gave them 40? Oh, well, that was at home. That doesn't count. He was ducking Nikola Jokic on the road. Or he was fucking hurt. Or he was hurt. People are so comfortable as NBA fans, like talking shit about these guys in a way, or illegitimizing shit that they do in a way that I just think is corny. I think it's lame. That's what I think about the 65 game rule. It's here to stay. It's a good rule, and I love it. All right, what else do we got? Things that I saw this week. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Is LeBron getting traded? I'm like, is that what we're gearing up for? Because we had this tweet yesterday from David Pingalore, Hearing from NBA peeps that King James is at the top of the Lakers list to trade the 39-year-old. Pelinka is looking for the right team to dance with and is close to a suitor. LBJ and AD are both out tonight. A game that the Lakers still ended up winning, beating the Celtics. Huh? The hell? What? What? Now, for those of you who need context, I guess this is the guy who was the sort of on the ground floor of reporting Kawhi's interest in going to the Clippers, not the Lakers. That ended up happening. He was on the ground floor of reporting LeBron's original interest in going to Miami, which he ended up doing. Obviously, he didn't break that. LeBron broke that himself on national television. I could do a whole retrospective on the decision. I remember everything about that moment. I remember everything about where I was. But he was the one who was like, hey, he might go to Miami. And then he did. And then he was like, hey, LeBron might opt out and go to Cleveland. And then he did. That's this guy. Okay? So that guy is now reporting that the Lakers are thinking about trading LeBron. Which you would imagine could mean also maybe trading Anthony Davis, but I also wouldn't be surprised if that's not the case. You want to keep something around. You know, he's still young. He's still got some tread on those tires. And I do have a spiel on Anthony Davis I'd like to do in a second. Don't let me forget to do that. Type furiously if I start to forget it, like all caps, like, Nick, don't forget to talk about Anthony Davis. I'll remember. Don't worry. Trading LeBron James. Is there a precedent for this? LeBron James to Ferrari? Teaming up with Lewis Hamilton and Charles. Oh, my God. Team Ferrari stock is to the moon, by the way. I am a Ferrari supporter, and oh, my God. Like, Christmas morning yesterday, Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. I need to stay on track. I'm talking about LeBron getting traded, and for some reason it can't keep my attention. There's no precedent for this. I don't care how old he is. I don't think he gets you like I was thinking last night. I need to see what this haul would look like. Is that 4 first-round picks? I don't even think it might not even be the Rudy Gobert haul. It might not even be that, honestly. But then it's like, who has it? Who has it in the chamber? Sam Presti has been loading up for a moment like this, no? Is this not Sam Presti's music, that treasure trove of hoarded picks? Could be. Do you look at a team like Dallas? Kyrie wants to play with his guy again. Do you give Luka and LeBron the opportunity to occupy the same space? I don't know. Outside of that, there's got to be another suitor in there somewhere. I'm just letting you know right now, if LeBron goes back to Miami somehow, if that trade gets facilitated, I don't think it could. I don't think there's any way that it could. But if, God forbid, somehow it did, Pat Riley pulls it off, people will forget Bud Dwyer's name. And I will usurp him as the most famous person to ever do that on camera. If you don't know who Bud Dwyer is, I'm serious, don't Google it. I'm not being funny. Don't Google it. Or if you do, like, really be ready to close your eyes, because it gets pretty brutal. Grandma, don't Google it, please. He did a not good thing on camera. I don't honestly have anything else to say because I read this news like 12 hours ago, and I was like, LeBron might get traded. I don't think so. And I think this could just be like a little smoke just for the sake of it. But I think I just wanted to put a pin in it just in case it does happen and throw out Oklahoma City and throw out Dallas and see where it goes. What else did I see this week? You see this? Did you hear about this? Steph Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Well, if that's not going to be food for conservatives and incels, then I don't know what is. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I hate that we're trained to look at it through this lens, that before it even happens, we're like just worried about what the discourse is going to be. Dude, I recorded like a 10-minute standalone video. It had nothing to do with the podcast the other day about it. And I didn't and I won't put it out because it did feel a little virtue signally to me to just be like, please don't be mean to this woman. But that is the sentiment. And I'm not saying that Sabrina can't kick his ass, because she can. Because she can. And she might, by the way. Remember a few years ago, I think it was half-court shots, and Jacob was even talking about this in a video. Steph was doing something for charity, and they're like, dude, however many shots you make, we'll donate like $20,000 per make, whatever some arbitrary number, whatever it was. And all he had to do was just throw up a bunch of half-court shots. He couldn't make any of them. The timer runs out, and he's like, no, give me one more. He throws it up. No, give me one more. Throws it up. No. He just kept wanting one more, and he couldn't make any of them. So putting Steph in this charitable situation, the history would suggest that it's not going to go in his favor. But I'm excited for it because I think it, not that the W is going to say that they don't need this, but I think it gives the league a chance to be legitimized a little bit. You put one of their best players, one of the best shooters in the history of their sport, or their league rather, on the stage as the consensus greatest shooter in the history of basketball ever. If she kicks his ass, which sneaky I'm rooting for, also because the jokes will just be funny. But if he wins, what's the rhetoric? Let's guess the headline. Something to the effect of like, this is why women will never be paid equally. Something to the effect of like, this is why women don't belong in men's sports. Like, it's just gonna be a week of awful, disgusting, hateful rhetoric, and it's gonna suck. You know, a joke I made to my grandma the other day, just speaking of like hateful rhetoric, I was on the phone with her and we were like making fun of conservatives, and I was like, do you think I should have put this on my bingo card? I can't wait until like Trump is in front of an audience of like 70,000 people and he's like, you see this leap year that they got going this year? This has never happened under my watch. Now we got one extra day of Black History Month. What the hell? Boo! The crowd starts booing. That just feels like such an easy way to spin a leap year, no? For conservatives, is they're like, we have to have one extra day of Black History Month? Oh, no! I didn't think my grandma cared too much about that joke. I thought it was really funny, though. Can we get Caitlin Clark in something? I know she's not even in the league yet. Seriously, like, crown this woman. I was so proud of the internet the other day. Hey, maybe this is the takeaways, that the internet is capable of like getting some shit off their chest in a really constructive and positive way. If NCAA basketball came out in 2024, who would be on the cover? First of all, in college basketball, like men's, TBD until March, because you can say what you want. If it had to be a guy, it would be like Cooper Flagg, honestly. Where's Julian Newman? Is he like dead? I don't want to say I hope so, but fuck that kid. Jesus. He's no way he's playing somewhere real, right? Or is he still like 12? I don't want him to be dead. Let me take that back, but fuck that kid. Everybody was like, no, it would be Caitlin Clark. It would be Caitlin Clark. Didn't she just put up 30 and 10 for like the 5th time in her career, and like no other woman has done that more than once, I think? 5 straight 30-point games? Huh? She's nasty. She's nasty. And it sucks because she's probably going to get drafted by Indiana. And like, bleh. Bleh. Yeah, I get it. She can't go to the Aces. Yeah, I get it. She can't go to the Liberty. You know what is my favorite? The Connecticut Sun is such a sick name. I don't know why. I just think that's so sick. I think it's mainly because it's fucking Connecticut. Why do they have a basketball team? They have a basketball team, but the Detroit Shock cannot exist. Whatever Cleveland's team was cannot exist. But Connecticut, okay, yeah. Fucking New Haven needed a basketball team. Cool, thanks. It just sucks. Greatest women's basketball player ever, point blank period. It's not close. Well, it is very close. Elena Delle Donne. I have been convinced for like 6 years that at the peak of her powers, she could have gone to the NBA and averaged 10 and 5. I'm so serious. Elena Delle Donne, when she was with Chicago and when she was with Washington, won a chip with Washington. I'm 99.9% sure she won a championship with Washington. So I think it was like 2019. Beast. That woman was a superpower. What else did I see this week? Did I see anything else? Did I hear about anything else? I know I did. But we're 30 minutes into this? Oh my God, we're halfway through the show. Let's move on. I made the joke about conservatives a second ago, making fun of them and shit. I don't even know who I'm going to vote for this year. And by I don't know, I mean I know who I'm not going to vote for. But the DNC is coming to Chicago, right? And I guess there was a bunch of groups who just got like permits rejected by the city for like protests for when the DNC comes here. Like activist groups, you know? And people were like, oh, this seems like it's like anti-justice and like anti-democracy or whatever. And it's like, no, what the city is saying is you can't block the streets. You can't march in the streets. You can do whatever you want. We don't want a repeat of the fucking Chicago 7. We don't want to do that again. Like, oh, okay. So we'll probably just have a bunch of like anarchist groups, which is like kind of cool. Like everybody wants to be part of the revolution until it's time to start the revolution, right? And I'm always on board with a good old-fashioned revolution. I don't want to get put on a list, but I am. And then you look at November and you're just like, and I'm saying this in a very genuine way. I'm not being funny. I'm not voting for him again. Like I'm not voting for Joe again. I'm just not. You're out of your mind. That's disgusting. Yeah, oh, but Nick, it's in the name of not letting Trump be president again. Okay. Do you want him to be 92 years old in the chair? Like, I'm serious when I don't want RFK to be president, but I'm way more confident throwing my vote, like voting for him, and you're going to be like, well, Nick, that actually just goes to Donald Trump. Shut up. Because here's what I don't understand about RFK. Is he's like, we need to dismantle Wall Street while also being backed by Wall Street? Huh? And this isn't his fault. Having like a vocal tremor is not his fault. But come on. No one's going to put up with that. They're just not. Like, if you sit through an RFK interview, by the end of it, you're like clearing your throat. Like you have gravel in your throat. Not his fault at all. And he does an awesome job commanding his cadence and the way that he speaks. Ah, shit, I remembered something that I wanted to talk about. Shit. I'm derailing this take. Most of you, I was probably alienating a lot of you anyways. And let's just not talk about it. Give me your voting plan down in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to know what you guys plan on doing because I don't know what to do. I cannot vote for Joe again. I cannot do it again. I was fine with doing it in the name of America last time, right? Putting the team on our backs and being like, let's get this Agent Orange out of here. Like, but I'm not doing it again. And you're going to be like, well, you won't need to worry about anything because Trump is going to be in jail. No, the fuck he's not. Shut up. He's not going to jail. Literally nothing's going to happen to him. As funny as these trials may be, literally nothing is going to happen to him. I'd be shocked if it did. It wasn't on my 2024 bingo card, Trump goes to jail. So it's not going to happen, right? Here's what I forgot to bring up. The whole Taylor Swift thing. And I can't even bring it up because the rhetoric was destroyed this week. It was destroyed this week. Too many men took my chair and were like, you don't even actually care that much that Taylor's being shown in these games. On average, by the way, for 25 seconds per game, she's on camera for. 25 seconds per game. It's a little bit higher in the AFC Championship game for obvious reasons. Look, I'm a Taylor Swift girly. I am a Sabrina Carpenter girly. I am an Olivia Rodrigo girly. I love my pop girlies, okay? That's like what I do. It's like orchestral, cinematic score, and pop music is what I've just transitioned into. That's just what I love now. And then like every now and then, like I was hooping the other day. I went downtown. I was like hooping for like an hour and a half. I was just playing like Yeet and Lil Yachty the entire time. Like new Lil Yachty. Not like the psychedelic rock, but like the lyrical lemonade shit. You know? He's just, damn, it's like, it's so good. It's so good what he does. I'm such a big Lil Boat guy. But anyways, instead of talking about Taylor, what my plan was going to be is I am so excited for the Super Bowl because Jim Nantz and Tony Romo to me are such a perfect broadcast booth. I think most people are lying when they say that they're paying attention to what they're saying in the broadcast, in the booth. That's not fair for me to say. That's not fair for me to say. But I don't think people are always very fair about it. People don't like Tony Romo because I don't know, Jim. I don't know, Jim. He like makes a bunch of noises. What? You're probably doing the same thing on your couch. That's what to me is so endearing about Tony Romo, is how like raw and authentic his emotions are. And in a broadcast booth, it's not rare, but you don't always see it. You don't see it from play-by-play guys, but from like a color commentator like Tony Romo is, I think he's awesome for the job. And there's always been this narrative out there that CBS asked him to stop predicting plays. Dude, he still does it. All the time, he still does it. Maybe the clip doesn't become a breakout on social and it doesn't, end up going viral, but like he still does it. And he and Jim Nantz have been like, no, that's horseshit. Like, that's not a thing. And you're going to say, well, of course they would lie about that. What reason do they really have to lie about that? I think it would honestly be a funnier story if Tony Romo was like, yeah, CBS had to tell me to stop predicting plays because I kept ruining the game for everybody. Like, no, I love when he does that stuff. I love when he does that. I just don't really like the discourse surrounding the Super Bowl and how everybody thinks it's lame. Why do you guys think it's lame? Now, this is very famously a pro-dynasty podcast, and I think it's one of the more loser takes that I have that people really don't like. I love a good dynasty. I love greatness. I love a success story. Yes, I love the underdog just as much, but I love when we are just beat over the head with a team. I love when it's like, you can run, but you can't hide. Destiny arrives all the same. Right? As our big purple friend once said. Not Grimace. Fuck that guy. Maybe it's because there's an oversaturation of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. Like you're watching a Chiefs game and then they cut to commercial and it's a State Farm commercial with the three of them. I get that people are maybe a little bit annoyed about that. But people being like, oh, I cannot stand listening to Chris Collinsworth or Tony Romo talking about Patrick Mahomes. Like, they're dancing on it. They're doing tricks on it. Why is it so easy for people to dismiss what they're seeing? Why is it so easy for people to be... The truth is, what Patrick Mahomes does in most games is shit that you don't see quarterbacks do historically. If you're not in constant amazement by just how he operates on a football field... I'm sorry. That's a you thing, dude. That's a you thing. Because if you're not able to just appreciate it and instead you want to... Because that's how you end up being the fucking jaded loser in 15 years who will be like, oh, well, back in my day when we had these quarterbacks. Dude, you hated them the entire time. You literally hated them the entire time. That's why it bothers me. Like, and God rest his soul, but there's always been this insane retrospective on like Kobe's career and how people talk about him. And it's like, dude, you literally fucking hated him when he was playing. You detested that man. A guy who, by the way, wouldn't be caught dead playing less than 65 games. I just want to fucking throw that out there. Unless he had a ruptured Achilles or like something where he literally couldn't walk. But guess what? He would still go out there and he would shoot some fucking free throws at least. Would not be caught dead playing less than 65 games. I started this segment. I was supposed to read an email. So let's move on. Let's read the email. Let's move on. Very, very angry email here. Very fiery from Peyton. Subject line, this is a baseball show now. Hi, Nick. I am going to begin by being a selfish asshole and requesting that if it's possible, you should start uploading your podcast to Apple Podcasts. I am a media glutton and trying to fix my ways to get off of YouTube, but I also want to keep listening to the Coping Hour because it is the only podcast that I listen to religiously anymore. Thank you, Peyton. All right, time for me to get some takes off. I will address that in a second, don't worry. What the Dodgers did is horrible for baseball in a way that is going to ruin the fucking sport if it is not addressed. The way the Ohtani contract is structured is going to literally bankrupt baseball if the MLB doesn't step in and stop this from happening in the future. Therefore, your baseball take about following the Dodgers to get into baseball is ontologically evil. This is not a numbers show, so I don't have a super nuanced take on this, and I am more so asking for your general opinion on it. Why do people throw such a hissy fit about statistics being used to evaluate games when it is something that has literally always fucking happened? People are always looking for ways to play the game, any game, in the most efficient manner possible, and even if it leads to a less aesthetically pleasing result, blaming the analytics boogeyman is beyond stupid, and you sound like an old man yelling at the clouds like that one Simpsons meme. This has always been a discussion in baseball, with NBA scoring being the way that it is, I see it coming up a lot in hoops discourse, and I honestly think everyone just needs to calm the fuck down. Peyton. The Apple Podcast thing, the only reason that I just don't think I will, Apple Podcast just doesn't support video podcasts. And you're going to say, that's fucking fine. I don't even watch it anyways. I only listen to it. To me, that's half the product. So I've really wrestled with it. And that is, I'm sorry, it's still TBD. I still need to figure out what I want to do with that. Even if 90% of you came out and you're like, I only listen to it, I don't watch it. With all due respect, even then, I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't, well, to be fair, 90%, that's a lot. I would probably be inclined to be like, okay, I'll put it on Apple Podcasts. But for the time being, that's the reason why. So onto your email. I don't give a fuck if it's evil or root for the Dodgers. Fuck you, Peyton. I don't like that. To me, that's not a reason to not root for the Dodgers, is because the means of how they acquired the team like isn't ethical and it's not cool. Who fucking cares? They're gonna be sick. The point that I'm not fuck you, Peyton. Not fuck you, Peyton. I'm sorry, Peyton. But the point is, if you can't enjoy the sport watching this team, I would have said the same thing, and you probably wouldn't have liked this either, dude. I would have said the same thing to somebody trying to get into basketball 8 years ago. I would have been like, watch the Warriors. Watch the Warriors with Kevin Durant. Well, actually, 8 years ago, right now, they were in the middle of their 73-9 run, so even then. But the principle remains the same, that when they added Kevin Durant, I would have said the same thing. If you can't get into basketball with this team, you're not going to get into basketball at all. That's all it is. If you can't root for, like, however many dudes top to bottom the Dodgers have that are at the peak of their powers, if you can't enjoy it and you can't find the fun in it and then it's not going to move the needle for you at all. The sport won't at all in general. Like, if you can't have fun watching the Dodgers, you're damn sure not going to have fun watching, Spencer Torkelson and Casey Mize and, like, Riley Green on the Tigers. I will, but how they acquired the team is wild. To be able to field the guys that they did while circumventing certain restrictions, because how does it work in baseball? There's no salary cap, right? That's nuts. Someone will, I'm sure, leave a very detailed and nuanced comment about how that actually works. Maybe I'll heart it or pin it or something so that everybody can see it. I do welcome that. I don't know how that works. But Peyton, to your point here about the analytics boogeyman, I think that's an awesome way to phrase it, because that's real. And you see it, the most recent example is like football going forward on fourth down. Well, the analytics say, take the fucking points, is what everybody else is going to say. But the analytics say, well, 4th and 2, it's pretty, quote-unquote, easy to get those 2 yards. It's easier to pick up 2 yards than it is to kick a 46-yard field goal, a 48-yard field goal. The math would suggest that you should go for it here, right? The math also suggests when you're down 14 and you score, you should actually go for 2. Because if you get it, then you're only down 6, and if you score again, an extra point will give you the lead. And if you don't get it, you're still down by 8, and you have to score another touchdown anyways, and then you'll just have to go for 2 again and actually get it to tie the game. People don't like that. People don't like that at all. I think it's because is it just as easy as saying the analytics boogeyman? I love that you said that, because that's literally what it is. The analytics boogeyman is new age and people don't like change. Is it as simple as that, where people don't like having to point? Here's why I don't like numbers, is because I don't understand how a lot of them work. That's it. I am secure enough, emotionally, that I will admit I just don't understand how a lot of them work. And that's why when somebody just reads a bunch of numbers at me, that doesn't mean anything to me. That doesn't, like, if I can watch them and be like, good, they're good in any sport, that's what I like to do. I like to do the old eye test. That just matters more to me. You know, I'm not going to, I'll look at batting average in baseball. I'll look at how many strikeouts does this guy have. Here's what confuses me. RBIs don't matter in baseball is what I've always been, and not always been told, but in the last few years, that's the narrative, is that RBIs like aren't really the stat that you want to look at to measure a player's. So this is another one I would love some feedback on. Why is that the case? I every time somebody explains it to me, my brain just like sparks out, and I'm like, what? I don't get it at all. I always make the joke about VORP. What? Disgusting. I'm this close to thinking that true shooting percentage is bullshit and doesn't matter. I don't care. It's so made up. It's so made up. And you're going to be like, but it measures efficiency in a more concise way than any other stat does. I guess. Oh, he finished this game with 65 points on 135 true shooting. What the fuck does that even mean? He was like, that's like when you get like 110%, like give 110% effort. What the fuck does that even mean? I maximize at 100%. What do you want me to do? You don't get 110% on a test in school. Well, what if you get extra credit? Fuck you. Shut up. Shut up. These players aren't getting extra credit for making more shots. I don't know. I don't think this even answers your question at all. I feel so bad for saying fuck you. I was just upset about you saying that I was ontologically evil for saying to root for the Dodgers. I'm sorry, Peyton, that I just want people to have a good time watching a fun sport. Fucker. Thank you for the email. Let's move on. All right, this is the part of the show where we are going to do 2 emails that have nothing to do with basketball or sports at all. Workshopping the segment idea, maybe Friday feelings, where every Friday you guys can send in some emails like this. Subject line, Friday feelings, and then a brief, few words about what it actually is. You guys will understand what I'm going for in a second here. Truly, there were so many good emails between Monday and Friday that I might push some of them to Monday because I do want to tackle. You guys sent in some awesome emails, and we're just going to run so long today that I just won't have time to do them all, which I know I always apologize for, but that does bother me a lot, genuinely. So let's jump into this. We got an email here from Vince. Subject line, here's some blah, blah. Come on, man. Believe in yourself a little bit. You want me to read the email? I moved out of my parents' house this past year, and for the most part, it's been great. My roommates are cool, but I'm starting to dislike one of my roommate's girlfriends. She's honestly not too rude, but she's over constantly, like 5 to 6 days per week. And she has a few things that I dislike. For example, she's on my ass about doing things, and I hate that I have to be her entertainment. She is always quick to come at me for hygiene. She once said, "Oh my God, you have the biggest zit I've ever seen." She seemed genuinely concerned for my zit. Another time I had to clear my throat and it was loud, but she turns around and says, "That's disgusting. I'm in my own house, for crying out loud." One last example is that we were watching this movie, The Nice Guys, with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Awesome movie. Very funny. All of my roommates were poking fun at it. It was not just me, but after a silly comment, she sits up and says, "Oh my God, can you please stop talking?" I was taken back from it, and I was like, "What's your problem?" To which she said that I was projecting. Long story short, this girl's on my ass about a lot of things. I want to pull away, but I don't want to cause an awkward argument. I also would hate to restrict the amount that she can come over. What would you do if you found yourself in this situation with your roommate's girl who has trouble respecting boundaries? Vince, I had to consult the inner circle on this one. Anytime that you guys send in like a real life, like advice email, I will always consult my girlfriend on it and be like, am I off base with my advice? Because I just want her to kind of check me if I'm saying something that's not good advice at all. A little, not to sound old fashioned, but the proverbial woman's touch. I like her to add that to it, right? A little more nuance, some perspective that maybe I don't have. And we kind of arrived at the same conclusion. Dude, we were, while we were eating dinner, we were talking about your email. We spent like 15 to 20 minutes on it, okay? So I think I'm giving you some, not sound advice, but advice that this is what our household believes, okay? And at the risk of, I felt a little guilty that I was like reading your email to her. But I was like, this motherfucker, I'm reading the email on the show to thousands of people, so what am I feeling bad for? So what should you do? Well, by the sounds of it, you have what, 3, 4 roommates? I'm assuming you're early college age. You just moved away from home, so you're probably 18, 19, right? Living with a bunch of guys, maybe 20. 3 to 4 roommates, however many it is, you didn't specify here. I think one thing that you can do is you can kind of have a little secret meeting off to the side. Maybe do a check-in with each individual roommate that isn't the boyfriend of this woman. Get a temperature check on her. These other guys might be feeling the same way as you are. If they are, you can very respectfully go to the boyfriend and be like, hey, man, because 5 to 6 days a week is crazy. That's crazy. When you're not living together and you're just over that much, he never goes over to where she is. He doesn't ever go over to where she stays at. Maybe he can do that. Maybe that's one way to kind of passive aggressively, if that's what you want to do, be like, hey, how come you never go over to her house? Why does she always have to come here? I do think it's weird that she, and I don't want to say like wasn't checked for this, because again, that sounds a little old fashioned too. When she said that you were just projecting, nope, like the boyfriend didn't say anything. I'm not saying he needs to smack her upside the head, but if my girlfriend like was saying some out of pocket shit to my friends, I would be like, all right, like, hey, like these are my friends, like relax a little bit. You know what I mean? Like if there's none of that, I don't want to say like who really wears the pants in this relationship, because that's not real. And also I don't even wear the pants in my own relationship. So, and I like it that way. So that doesn't really matter here, but like there's got to be something, right? Maybe you send him the link to this episode, send him the timestamp to where I started reading your email, and then he'll pick up that it's him. Hey man, if you're listening to this, she can't be over all the time, right? Surely there's somewhere else that you can hang out. Surely she doesn't have to be. I don't know why the fuck you have to be her entertainment. I don't even know what that means. Whatever that even entails. Is he boring? Is the boyfriend boring? Is he just lame and like is like antisocial? Does he not know how to like entertain a guest? I don't know. I hate to say it. Can I side with her on one thing? If you talk during a fucking movie, I'm going to lose my mind. God forbid I look over and see you on your phone. Oh my God. Oh my God. And that's a personal etiquette thing. I very famously get so angry with people who don't subscribe to like social norms and etiquette that I have made up in my head. And that's one of them. But there's also like it's the nice guys. And if you're watching it with the boys, yeah, if the vibes are such that you guys are just kind of like laughing and fucking around during the movie, she needs to relax a little bit. Because she seems a little tightly wound for one reason or another, right? To me, what I would do here is, I don't know if you go to the guy, well, maybe you do go to him directly, but I think what we settled on in this household was you want to talk to your other roommates. And you want to see how they're feeling, right? Because you can go to him and be like, again, in a way that is not confrontational, and be like, hey man, like she is kind of over here a lot. Is there anywhere else that you guys can go? I hope that helps. I just don't. Because yeah, in an ideal world, you're just like, get the fuck out of my house. You can't do that. Can't do that. You don't want to jeopardize your friendship. I will say, from the sounds of it, hey, we didn't get her side of things here, but by the sounds of it, you should feel validated in what you're feeling right now, because this would kind of drive me insane too. If somebody checked me on, hey, at the beginning of this episode, I talked about how this is it almost made me end the show. God forbid somebody came into my house and was like, Jesus, what is that? I'd kill you. I don't care who you are. I'd kill you. You'd be dead. You'd be in a chokehold, and I'd say, is this where you want to die today, right now? Really? Because that's what's about to fucking happen. Don't talk to me about my body. Are you nuts? I can't clear my throat in my own house. I don't know. There's some people who, when they do it, it's just disgusting. You might be one of those guys. You might clear your throat in a disgusting way. Do you sneeze really loud, too? Are you one of those guys, too? I don't know. The more I talk about it, maybe the more I'm on her side. I'm kidding. No. Talk to the roommates. Talk to the old roommates about this one. I feel like I'm giving you some shit advice here. I'm sorry. Let's get a follow-up on what you do on this. And let's move on. That last email was what we call in the industry a warm-up. If you could handle that, put your seatbelts on. Because this came in under the wire, and I was going into this show expecting to only read that one. And then once this one came in last night, I was checking the email before I went to bed. And I was like, oh my God. Friday's show is going to be probably my favorite episode that I've ever recorded. Because this guy doesn't even know how well equipped I am to deal with this one. Subject line, dating/life advice. From Soren. Soren? I'm going to say Soren. Hey, Nick. I know you probably don't want to turn the Coping Hour into a dating/life advice show, but I thought I'd ask, given your insightful answers to other similar questions. Oh, the contraire, friendo. Give me an excuse to not talk about sports. I dare you. That's why I kind of want to start a segment. Like, hey, every Friday you guys can send in these emails and we'll tackle them. All right. This is a long one, so buckle up. I'm 19 in my first year of college and have been doing long distance with my girlfriend since September. We've officially been together for just over a year and a half, but have sort of been in a relationship for the last 3-ish years. We're incredibly close and I think quite mature for our age, although everyone says that, and are very good at communicating problems and working through issues. Our relationship has consistently evolved and adapted and is very strong. It feels truly like a marriage. And then parenthetically he said, which I know is a little crazy, but my mom even thinks so if that says anything. Well, she's your fucking mom. Although if your mom at 19 did not like this woman, she would let you know. So maybe you're onto something. Given the right circumstances, I could genuinely see myself marrying this woman. We've talked about having kids, being married, etc. I only see her once a month, maybe, and every time I see her, it re-emphasizes to me how she's the most important thing in my life. But I'm only 19. It's a little overwhelming to be in a relationship of this magnitude at this age. Full disclosure, she's the only person I've ever slept with. Apologies if this gets slightly off-show appropriate topics. TLDR will use different language. Dude, we talk about building bombs in January 6th on this show like fucking ad nauseum. You're fine. And I've always had the idea that I would have various sexual experiences with different people. The idea that that may never happen again if I stay in this relationship is kind of disappointing. I also didn't have the most fun high school experience, and I still feel the need to get the sex, drinking, partying, wild nights, etc. out of my system. It's what I imagine the early 20s are for. If there was ever a time, it's now. No? My current school hasn't been particularly fun or great academically either, and I've been considering transferring. This opens up a lot of possibilities. I could end up at the same school as my girlfriend, which would be great, but would also sort of feel like I'm tying myself down. I could end up at a school farther from our hometown and where she is, essentially ending our relationship, as we've both acknowledged that long distance is not sustainable. Or I could stay where I am. It's not great, but I got a few connections, and my girlfriend and I have made it work. I've also been calling basketball games for my school's team, which is fucking awesome. Makes me so happy to hear you talk about broadcasters and know that someone else thinks about them. This, oh my God. A game, to me, is 80% the broadcast. I could do 45 minutes on this. So what do? Do I move up to where she is and really commit to a serious relationship that could last quite a long time, even though I'm not even 20 yet? Or do I pursue the college experience that I want and feel like I need to have? I can't bear to think that I'd choose something somewhat hedonistic, using too many, that's a big word. I've never heard that word before. And I like to think my vernacular is pretty sharp. I've never heard that word before. Good word. But I also feel like this is the time to try it. Is it all it's chalked up to be? I would kind of like to know for myself. I need to have fun after the last few years, and I don't know how to prioritize that. And then there's a big TLDR here. Keep doing what you're doing. Sincerely, Soren. The woman that I am currently with, this will be accumulatively our 10th year together in December. This past December was 9 years, so we just crossed the 9-year threshold. I have been with her since I was 15 years old. She is the only woman that I have ever been with. In every capacity, it's the only woman I've ever been with. When I was 19 years old, we had been together for about the same amount of time. And although I didn't even finish high school, she was going to a community college in Lansing. And I moved out to Lansing with her. And even, well, I guess I wasn't technically living there full time, but I was, I was kind of in between living at home and living with her. And I understand what you're feeling, dude, about that, kind of in the back of your head. Like, am I going to be missing out on stuff? What I would say to you is, like, there are two things that are true. Most people who start dating somebody in high school, they don't end up getting married. They don't end up getting married. And I even had a teacher in high school who would always say to the seniors, if you're dating someone, break up with them. Fucking break up with them, because when you go to college, you're going to want to do the full college experience. You're going to want to drink. You're going to want to have sex with a bunch of people. You're going to want to party. You're going to want to just kind of be a free spirit and do what you want to do. From what it sounds like, man, I just don't know if the grass is going to be greener here for you. Because I can confidently say, through the ebbs and flows, by the way, our relationship has not been perfect, my girlfriend and I, for the last 10 years. There have been plenty of periods of time where we have taken extended periods of time off. That's why I say accumulatively, like 9 years is how long we've been together, almost 10 years. Because, like, when I moved to California for about a year, we weren't good, and we didn't talk a lot, and it was kind of over. It was kind of over. And there's that feeling that you get of just pure emptiness when all of a sudden you just don't have that person that you have always known. And that's how you resort to, do you know how much weed I smoked in California? An incomprehensible amount. And there were two things to that. One, because I was miserable. Two, it was fun. I can also look at it in a healthy way and be like, no, I just had access to it. And like, it honestly helped me creatively. And it was just fun. Like, I just enjoyed doing it, and it didn't ruin my life, but I can also look back and be like, maybe it wasn't the healthiest thing for me to be doing while I was going through what I was going through. Right. And so you don't want to turn to that, because it could be really easy for you to go down this path of like, fuck, I'm finally free of the old ball and chain. I finally got out of this thing. Right? And then you go down this rabbit hole that you think you want to go down, just to kind of get to the other side of it and realize how much you fucked up and how much happier you would be. It can be a lonely feeling to do what you want to do this experience that you think you want to do. Not you think you want to do. You do want to try it. Why do you think you feel that way? That's societal pressure, man. The reason that you think that this is what your 20s are for is because that's what you've been shown in, like, not just American culture, but the world's culture. Is that's what it seems like people do. I struggle with a sense of purpose all the time. And what that always entails is, like, I just never feel like I'm doing enough to blip on people's radars. Like, nobody fucking knows who I am. And I'm like, that's just not a meaningful life to me. But it's like, you know what's enough is being loved and loving somebody else and starting a family and providing for that family, being there for the child, you know, things like that. You don't even have to have a kid. I'm just using an arbitrary example. Your journey is defined by what you make it, dude. And I would also say, you know, you want to experiment with all this stuff. Who's to say you can't do that with her? I'm going to say, and Grandma, I'm serious. You might want to plug the old ears. You know, man, the longer that you're with this woman, the weirder your sex life is going to get. The better that it's going to get, because you're going to be more comfortable with this woman than you would be with anybody else, which means that you're going to stumble into some stuff that you didn't even know. Something's going to get unlocked in you the more comfortable you are with somebody, rather than like a different woman, a different bed every single night, right? There's a numbness that comes to that, right? Historically, for some people. You seem like a very emotionally intelligent guy. I would say it's very rare to have the communication skills that it sounds like the two of you do at the age that you do. To your own point, it sounds like you guys are pretty mature. You're talking with this woman at 19 years old about having kids and getting married. And while it may seem like you need to pump the brakes a little bit, Maybe you can, but that doesn't mean that you should break up with her, right? You want to have sex with other people? Hey, be like, hey, I was just reading this book about polygamy or polyamory. Which one's the non-Mormon one? The non-Mormon one. That one. Hey, maybe that becomes a thing, right? Maybe you guys start this open dynamic. I don't know. Or you don't, and you realize that that's not what's most important to you. That's what this comes down to, is what's most important to you. As far as like the whole school thing, I don't want to fuck up your academic. I'm not weighing in on that at all. I didn't go to college. I don't know. Logistically, is transferring a nightmare? It feels like it would be a nightmare, because it would be like, well, what if these credits don't actually transfer and then I have to fucking like redo my gen eds? You don't want to end up with that. I don't know about how all that works, so that's on you. I don't know. But as far as should you stay with this woman, I would agree with you on the long distance thing. It's just not feasible. I'm sure some people are going to chime in the comments. Oh, well, my wife and I, my husband and I, we did long distance. Good for you guys. Honestly, good for you guys. It's really fucking hard. And even if it worked for somebody out there, what they're going to tell you was that shit was not easy. It was not easy at all. It's also hard when you're in college. Being long distance in college is also not that fun, because I don't know if you're an anxious person. I don't know if you're an insecure person, but your brain is going to do some stuff every time they're out. You know, be like, what are they doing? Why aren't they texting back? You can't just go check on them. You're 45 minutes away. You going to make that drive and then drive all the way back? Probably not. Probably not. You're an hour and a half away. Probably not going to do that. The longer that you're with someone, the more that you will just sort of unravel in a way that you didn't know you could. The more that you sort of like interlace your life with theirs, the more that, at least in my instance, you become someone that you always wanted to be. I would not have the emotional intelligence that I do, not to pat myself on the back, if I didn't have her. Because the perspective that she gives me as truly the strongest, most independent woman that I know, she doesn't fucking need me. She does not need me. But she loves me, right? It sounds like this woman loves you. You know, the longer you're together, the worse fights you're going to get in too. Hell, there might be a time where you're like, fuck, if you do stay with her, there might be a time, and you don't want to hear this, that you're going to be like, fuck, I did the wrong thing. I should have left. No. Because it's those fights, dude, that really define you, and that it's like really iron sharpens iron. This is, I truly understand what you're feeling here, man. And maybe it's just a my family thing. I mean, hey, the relationship my brother's in, he's been with the same, only this, like, one woman for 15 years. My grandparents have been married for almost 60 years. It's just them, only people they've been with. And now me. In one actual relationship my entire life with one woman. And there are gaps, man. There might be a moment where you guys feel like you need a break. Again, my girlfriend and I have taken a handful of them, right? Where whether it was my fault, I did something wrong, whether it was her fault, she did something wrong. Which, by the way, there's a sub piece of advice. Don't keep score. Do not keep score. That is a very, very unhealthy trap that you can fall into. Is the longer that you're together, if you start to make like a mental, you start to like tally, well, she fucked up, which means I'm allowed to fuck up. Nope. Ooh, that could get really dicey. Ooh, and that sounds obvious, but it's so easy to do that. You know, you're 5 years into a relationship and they fuck up and you just feel so betrayed that you like need to retaliate. And then you do something that it's like 10 times worse, right? Not to air out my relationship. We've both been guilty of that. It just comes with the territory. The longer you're with somebody, the harder that it is. Sometimes, in some instances, not just in general. But what also comes with that is you open doors that you otherwise never would have expected. And yeah, dude, in some instances, sounds like you're a horny dude. Yeah, in some instances, that is sexual. Yes. I'm excited for you to go on that journey. Who's to say you can't party with her? Who's to say you can't do all of this stuff with her? Sans all the sex, I guess. Go to like an Eyes Wide Shut party or something, dude. Like, get your shit off. You know? But I just don't want you to fall victim to this societal pressure where you feel like it's what you're supposed to do. Because it's what's depicted in the movies. Because it's what all of my friends do. This is what I gotta do. I gotta get it out of my system. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. But it's gonna hurt, man. It's gonna hurt, and you might make the right decision. You might break up with this woman, and you might go out and do all this shit, and you're gonna be like, I can't believe how good I feel, you know, in 5 years, 4 years. You meet somebody else, and you're able to look back at this sort of defining moment of your life and realize that you made the right decision. Totally, totally possible. But the alternative is a lot worse. The alternative of being filled with that regret, and being left without a chair. You know, how's that going to feel? I'm not trying to put shit in your head, man, but how's it going to feel if you're left without a chair, but she's off at the party with some other dude, and she realizes, wow, I can't believe how much happier I am. Like, I can't believe things worked out for me. That probably wouldn't feel very good, would it? And even if you're listening to this right now, dude, you have like a little feeling in your stomach. You're like, fuck, I don't want that at all. Is that your answer? It sounds like you care about this woman a lot, man. I don't think you should be disappointed if your sexual or partying growth is stunted. Again, you guys are such powerful communicators. Have a conversation about this. It's not going to be a fun one. There's a chance it goes south. Do not lead with like, I kind of want to have sex with other people. Don't fucking say that. Don't say that. But, I mean, you're only 19. You guys can't just like go get a drink. But most of the shit that you want to do, you can do with this woman, even if you guys are currently kind of long distance. You only see each other maybe once a month. Well, if that's the case, dude, move closer to her so that you guys can spend more quality time. But you telling me that every time you see her, it reinvigorates or reemphasizes that feeling, that sentiment that you shared of like, it's her, it's this woman. To throw that away for selfish reasons because you feel like you need to live a certain way, a certain lifestyle, that doesn't seem very cool. To me. I hope this helps, man. I think you should please stay with this woman. Please stay. I'm not going to judge you if you don't. I will not judge you if you don't. Okay? But please stay with her. I think it's the right thing to do. Let's move on. We are going to wrap up today's show. Got an email from someone who was like, this isn't even an email. He's like, I'm just a Wizards season ticket holder. I'm at the game. We're down by like 100, and I'm just filled with regret. He's like, hope you're doing well. That was the email. Another highlight was, I'm not reading this on the show, but it was like a selling point. It was like a pitch for me to use Final Cut instead of Premiere. He made some compelling points. I'm not gonna. He made some good points, but I'm fucking not gonna. I'm using Premiere. I'm gonna use what I know. You know. I gotta tell you, man. I watched American Gangster for the first time in my life with Denzel. Oh my god. Oh my god. Not that I need to like be like, do people know about Denzel Washington? Yes, they know about Denzel Washington. But it was one of those like, if you know, all-timers that I just hadn't seen. And so I finally, it's on HBO, so I was like, all right, I'll finally sit down and watch this. And I'm watching it, I'm like, holy shit, this movie rules. This movie is awesome. Like just good old-fashioned mobster movie, the old Harlem mob in the late 60s, early 70s, just slinging heroin. And I'm watching and I'm like, I was like, somebody like important directed this movie. I know they did. And I couldn't remember who it was. And the whole movie, I'm just like, I wanted to Google it. I was like, the credits will tell me. I'll just enjoy the movie for now. And then I get to the credits, directed by Ridley Scott. Fuck. Shit. If you don't know, Ridley Scott it just proved my Ridley Scott is just D'Angelo Russell theory. Such a high volume director that always leads to nothing but a 2-hour experience of, that was a way to spend 2 hours and nothing more than that. But every now and then gives you 40 in a performance that reminds you why he's still in the league. You know, with Ridley Scott, that's like American Gangster. It's like Alien. Didn't he do Gladiator? Right? He's got good movies. Napoleon is offensively bad to me. I've tried to watch it twice. The first time I got 5 minutes in. The second time I got 10 minutes in. And that was like this week. If you're going to make the movie, make the fucking movie. If I'm watching Joaquin Phoenix talk like Joaquin Phoenix as fucking Napoleon Bonaparte, fuck yourself. You're out of your mind. Why are the members of French Parliament speaking with English accents? And you're going to say that I'm being nitpicky and I'm being an asshole. If you're going to make the movie, make the fucking movie. Seriously, dude. I watched The Last Duel in theaters. And they're in like 1600s France, whatever fucking year it was. Why is Ben Affleck just Ben Affleck? Why is Matt Damon just Matt Damon? Why is Adam Driver kind of just Adam Driver? Why is everybody speaking with an English accent? Matt Damon would put like a French inflection, on whatever city it is, whatever French city it is that he's pronouncing. But otherwise, it's like, I'm not going to take you serious. And then House of Gucci comes out and they're like, do Italian accents. And people were like shitting on Lady Gaga for isn't she actually Italian though? Isn't Adam Driver actually Italian? I don't remember. Lady Gaga definitely is though. So they tried for that movie. Jared Leto very famously tried in that movie. But if it's a period piece, Ridley Scott is just like, like, I just want this to be digestible for the audience. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. If you're gonna make the movie, make the fucking movie. So you know what I did instead? Last night we watched a couple episodes of Hell's Kitchen. And she goes to bed. And I was like, I gotta watch something. So I put on The Northman. I've seen it like 4 or 5 times. And I think what bothers me is the fact that in the year of our Lord 2024, people are still calling The Northman an original movie. It's original in the sense that there aren't a ton of like Western depictions in the 21st century of like Vikings doing Viking shit outside of the Vikings show. I'm sure there's some pretty awful stuff that happens in there. It's pretty raw. That's original, quote unquote, in a sense. It's the fucking Lion King. That's literally the movie. It's literally what the movie is. And if you're going to tell me that I'm being reductive, I would direct you to Robert Eggers himself, the guy who made the fucking movie, where he was like, it's just the Lion King, basically. It's a very told story. We've heard this before. We've seen this before. It's just once you throw in all this like Norse mythology, and it's what's annoying to me is to think back on that movie when it first came out, and people were like, unless you have like a fucking doctorate in like Nordic lore, you're not going to be able to understand what's going on here. These guys want to go to heaven, aka Valhalla, and they want to die in battle. Do I got it? Is that it? Got it? Cool. Yep, that's the movie basically. It's basically it. Where is Anya Taylor-Joy? Why doesn't she just like hasn't been in anything since The Menu, I think? Was it the last like major movie that she was in? Where the hell is she? Why isn't she getting roles? This has to be. Is 2024 the year of Anya Taylor-Joy? Can I get her in anything else? Where has she been? I'm going to end the show because this one's a long one. Alrighty, folks. If you are listening to this on Spotify, you can leave 5 stars. If you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, nice little comment. There's lots of stuff for you guys to chime in on today. I think I asked you guys who you're going to vote for, what your voting plan is. That's going to piss people off. Fuck, it's not going to make anybody mad. Who cares? I think we harangued the women of the coping hour, and we promised that we would farm them for engagement. I guess when you put it that way, I don't like how it sounds. And we did a whole bunch of Friday feelings. There was 30 minutes of like basketball up top. I forgot about that. Jesus, what a long episode this was. Alrighty, folks, I will catch you guys in the next
primary control. Beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful.